Welcome to the Bold Money Revolution podcast. This is your source for straight talking, no fluff, business and high performance conversations that add real depth and value to the way bold leaders live, work, and thrive. I'm your host, Tara Newman. I'm here to show you how to optimize your performance as a leader so that you can grow a business that is profit-rich, efficient, and allows you to generate real, tangible wealth for yourself and others. We are here to help you lead with your values, to perform without overwhelm and burnout, and to do your most important work in the world. Hey there. Welcome to the Bold Money Revolution podcast. I'm your host, Tara Newman, and today I'm here with a guest. We're doing more guests this year, and I'm here with Eric Melchor, and he helps brands build personalized experiences. He's also a podcast host. He's a Texan expat living in Romania, and he's a mediocre tennis player. Welcome, Eric.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show, Tara.
So tell us a little bit more about what you do.
Yeah, so I show brands how to deliver a personalized experience to different segments for their website. And so brands historically have not been able to deliver these experiences like Amazon or maybe Netflix because the technology was just too expensive or it required like expansive IT teams. But now, because the advancement of technology, there are different platforms out there where marketers like myself who don't have a coding background that are used to a drag and drop interface can actually, do some personalization stuff that really surprises and delight different website visitors that come to their website, whether that's new visitors, returning visitors, maybe subscribers, maybe people that have a coupon. So there's different segments, or you can create your own segments as well. But it's a really fun, easy to use drag and drop interface. And if you're looking to get a better return on your paid media investment, grow your email subscribers, increase your average order value, we consider personalization the new CRO, or the new conversion rate optimization.
I'm going to co-sign that. And if you've been a listener of this podcast for a while, Eric and I actually got connected through Bonjoro and Casey Hill. So I know that Eric has worked with Bonjoro, partnered with them on some things. And I think that's where you first came on my radar. And then you've been doing some outreach and podcast pitching. And so you said, hey, my buddy Casey was on your podcast. And that's how we connected. So for a long time, we've been really into personalization, sending personalized videos. And I want to talk about that. But when you emailed me and I was like, hey, would you be interested in having me on your podcast? And you gave me some topics that you would come and talk about. The one that really stood out to me was making friends in a new country. Mm-hmm. Because you're this expat, right? And you were telling me before that you married a woman who lives in Romania. That's how you wound up in Romania. And what I love about talking about that is the lens of relationship building in general, and how important it is, obviously, not just when you move to a new country, but how important it is in our businesses. And I have to be really honest with, I mentioned this too in the green room, and I want to be really honest with my listeners. This is a huge challenge for specifically women in business, even though they're relational, even though they tend to be more natural connectors. I see this as being such a huge bottleneck or stumbling block for them. So I'm really excited to dig into this conversation. So here you are a Texan in Romania. Yeah. And you have to start over.
Start over. I didn't know anybody, Tara. I didn't have even a job when I moved here. It was during COVID. So a little over 2.5 years ago. Yeah. I didn't know anybody either. And so
everybody's locked down. Nobody's in coffee shops. Now we're taking this to a whole new level of challenge.
Exactly. I didn't have a place to go to meet anybody. And so I had to figure out, how can I create some new friendships? How can I sort of build a network or start a network? And so that way I can find my next job. And so I was basically starting from scratch. And now you fast forward a little over 2 years. Mm-hmm. And we have a lot of social plans on the weekends with a lot of other friends. I get invited to a lot of stuff that I just don't have time for. And a lot of it is not even work related. It's just also, friendship related, based on different strategies and tactics that I've used over the past couple of years that I can share with your audience, but they can also be applied to work as well.
Yeah, I would love to dig into this and hear what was when you were like, okay, stranger in a strange land, must have been a little disorienting.
A little bit.
New language.
Yeah. Yeah.
New way of doing things, new culture. Where did you even start? Like, that is so overwhelming. How did you kind of put like that overwhelm? I'm making an assumption that it was overwhelming to you, but you can correct me if it wasn't. But like, where did you even start? That must have felt so upside down.
Well, there's some basic stuff out there. For example, I don't even use Facebook, but Facebook has these different expat groups all throughout the world. So if you just go in and type in expats in Romania or expats in Bucharest, there's like 2 or 3 Facebook groups that pop up. And so I introduced myself. I included a picture of myself. I said, hey, my name is Eric. I'm from Texas. I'm here with my wife. We've got 2 little kids. I'm trying to get up in the tech scene or startup scene. I host a podcast. And, if anybody's interested, I'm looking for people that have like a growth mindset, that are adventurous, that are like exploring Europe, that love going out to new restaurants, and if any of those things interest you, including play dates, let me know. And I got so many, DMs and responses, and people even respond to like, hey, this is something that you orderly don't see in this group. I thought it was cool. And I checked out your LinkedIn profile and you seem like a really cool person. Would love to connect. And that's all just based on being genuine, being natural, and putting yourself out there. Right.
Hey, but you did something really important that I just want to call out for people and not leave it as like an open loop to let them guess what that was. You are very specific about what you were looking for. You were very specific in your values, adventure. You were specific that you were a parent, you had 2 kids, and you were just making a very clear ask.
Yeah, I think the growth mindset, and I think that really clarified.
Yeah, there were some characteristics there that you really put in around who you were looking to be in relationship with.
And I learned that because the first time I posted in the group, I didn't have any sort of targeting or anything about me. It was just, we moved here, we'd love to meet some other people, play dates, and that was it. And we did meet a lot of people, and you know what? They're great people, but they just weren't the kind of people that I would consider, long-term relationships. They didn't really have the same sort of
values.
Right.
Mindset.
Mindset.
I love that because you use the word targeting, right? And not in a slimy or gross way. Like, you were just looking, there's lots and lots of people online. There's lots and lots of people in Romania. It's a whole dang country, right? Like, you live in a city or a town, whatever. There's a lot of people there. How do we help people know, like, who we are, how to find us, and really zero in on the right people so that nobody is wasting their time?
Exactly. So that was like one thing I did. The other thing I did was just, I found a co-working spot, and I think I went like 3 times a week, and I worked at this co-working space, and it was fantastic. The atmosphere was great. The audience was really nice. But you know what? People weren't going out of their way to basically introduce themselves. And I think I did that a few times, but remember, this is a different culture. So people weren't really used to that. And so I asked the people working there if I were to bring like a couple of bottles of wine on a Friday afternoon, could they send a message to everybody and just say, free wine in the lounge, and whoever wants to come, we're just going to have a glass of wine and introduce each other. And they were willing to do that. And like 10 people showed up. And because of that, just by that simple message, and, we're going to have wine, I made like 3 good friends from that co-working space. I no longer go to it because I moved into a different location, but I still see those people. And it wouldn't have happened if we didn't have that little, 45-minute little cocktail, get to know one another event at the co-working spot.
So I want to pull some of the brilliance out of this, right? So there was a clear purpose as to why you were going to that co-working space. And like, sure, you could go to work because you needed a place to work, but you had a much more purposeful intent for why you were going to be there.
I had to meet people. I was working basically 24/7 in an apartment. We downsized when we left the States. So we're in an
Mm,
apartment that's half the size of our home.
hmm.
And, we had a 1-year-old, my little girl, she turned 1 when we moved here. And so I was home all day with her and my mother-in-law and my wife. And I just had to get out. I had to connect and engage with other people. I'm an extrovert, so I needed that.
Ah, yeah. So I know you're saying you're an extrovert, but I also want to be clear that this is here for us introverts because I'm an introvert. And a lot of what Eric's talking about are similar things that I do. So I want you to listen to, so immediately people are going to be like, oh, well, it's easy for him because he's an extrovert. And I don't want them to do that. I want them to hear what you're saying and go, how could that work for me? Right. So maybe it's not a co-working space, but maybe it's a coffee shop, or maybe it's like something else. So I just want people to really be open-minded as they're listening to this. Because the other thing you did in the co-working space that so many people do not do, but is such a value. So people don't realize, they think their value is like their work, like, right, like the thing they do. But the value that you brought in that space was taking the initiative and initiating this opportunity for people to come together, because there are so many people. When I talk to business owners and I'm like, well, why don't you host a roundtable? Why don't you host a get together? Why don't you host a lunch? Why don't you host a dinner? Everybody freaks out and doesn't want to do it because they don't want to be the one extending the invite.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what would have happened if nobody showed up? How would you
What
have dealt with that?
I don't know. I think because the invitation came from the actual administrators and the managers of the co-working space, nobody felt like, oh, yeah, there was no ego involved.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me repeat that. There was no ego involved. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't like this specific person is hosting this event. And because I didn't have any reputation or credibility or anything, it was just, hey, this is free wine that the staff are hosting, and nobody felt like threatened at all. It's like we're all in the same boat here. We're all in the same place.
All
Um,
humans, all putting our
it-
pants on one leg at a time.
exactly. And what's it going to hurt walking a few feet and just getting away from your work for a little while and getting to know other people and it was fantastic. So many people felt like, wow, this was just a really good idea and we need more of this. And so I think it
Mhm.
became, I think they were going to consider doing it, like once a month, every Friday, just kind of hosting these things. But that's just another thing that you could do if you're working remote. I can't say enough about co-working spots. Get outside, get the fresh air. Sure, you can go walk your dog, you can go get a cup of coffee and everything, but to be able to engage with other people, I highly recommend co-working spots.
Yeah, being around other people for sure. You know, the economy is uncertain right now. I think we're actually technically okay, but people are reading the headlines of articles and not reading the whole article and getting themselves very worked up and nervous. And so it's kind of slowing things down a little bit. And I think people are kind of out of capacity for certain things online. I think, I'm watching people like not use social media as much as they had in the past, or they need a break or whatever. And so whenever things start to feel like sluggish for me, my first strategy is get out there and get in person. Get out there, get with my local market, start engaging, getting to know people and building relationships with people who could potentially be either friends or colleagues or partners or do business with, but like be open to seeing like where those relationships lead.
Yep.
And it shocks me because it is so instantaneous and fast in a way that sometimes staying online and behind your keyboard isn't.
Yeah. I mean, there's things that I've done just so that I can engage with people. I worked at, and I've been laid off a couple of times. So I know exactly what people may be going through in terms of being fearful of losing their job or having lost their job. But I'll never forget, about 4 years ago, I got laid off and I had a lot of money in the bank. I think we had more than 6 months of savings to cover. And my wife was working too to cover our bills. And so the day I got laid off, I got to home and within 1 hour, I had filled out my online application to be an Uber driver. And it's not like I did it to for the
I
money.
love it. You
I
did it to
just
meet
did it.
people.
I just did it just so that I had something to do.
Yeah.
And I wasn't, I just spending my entire time looking for my next job. And because I like talking to people and I thought this would be fun. And I think I did it like for about 4 weeks because I found a job literally like 4 weeks later. And I didn't, I didn't need the money, but it was just great to have conversations with people and, get to
Mhm.
know people and things like that. But speaking of online, I use this approach to sort of engage with people or let people know that I'm friendly. And if they want to engage or get to know me, I'm going to create a bridge for that. Whether or not they're going to go down that bridge is up to them. But I've developed so many relationships online, specifically through LinkedIn,
Mhm.
by connecting with different people. And so here's how that works. Obviously, you connect with somebody and you can now send them a direct message. Now, I host a podcast, but I also work in partnerships for OptiMonk. And so, depending on who they are, right, if I connect with somebody new and they're in the startup community, because I interview startup founders, I will send them a message, and it's pretty much consistent all the time. It's just, hi, pleasure to connect with you. Question for you. And the question is always a joke, and I'll switch out the jokes. But question for you, when does a joke become a dad joke? When it becomes apparent, right? And then I'll basically close the message by saying, okay, great. I'll get back to interviewing startup founders on my podcast. Sign my name, right? If it's a person in the e-commerce industry that's related to my actual job, I'll use the same format, but then at the end, I'll say, great, I'll get back to showing brands how to deliver personalized website experiences. And then I sign my name. I get dad jokes back, usually 3 or 4 dad jokes back a week. I get usually 3 or 4 responses back a week saying, this is like the best, opening message I've ever received on LinkedIn. People are always saying this made my day. And I opened the door. And I would say at least 70% of people that I send that message to have some sort of positive reply back, oh, that was a good one, or I've never seen this approach, or thank you, Eric, or whatever. And based on their response, I know if it's somebody, whether or not, that I would probably enjoy working with, right? And I think people don't take advantage of that when they connect with somebody on LinkedIn. That's the perfect opportunity to engage with somebody because that's when they have the highest interest and curiosity about you. And so if you don't take that opportunity to engage with them, for me, again, I approach it with levity. I approach it with my genuine self, which is being a little bit funny. You don't have to tell a dad joke. You can kind of use your approach, but at least take advantage of that moment when they have the highest curiosity about who you are. And then try to create a bridge where you can develop a relationship with them. And if they respond in a positive manner, then oh, great, this is somebody that, I could probably have maybe a virtual coffee with, down the line.
Yeah. What's the name of your podcast? Tell everybody.
Innovators Can Laugh. We're almost 100 episodes, Tara. And you're a podcaster. When I created the first 30, I thought to myself, God, these suck. And then I got to like episode 50 and I thought, okay, it's getting a little bit better. And then finally, as I get close to 100, I know there's still a lot of room for improvement, but it's much better than the first 30 podcasts.
Yeah, that's just the way it goes. This podcast has been around since 2017. I think we have, over 250 episodes, and it's definitely a journey. What was the purpose for you for starting your podcast? I'm curious.
To meet other people.
I knew he was going to say that, which is why I asked him.
So many friendships I've met here in Bucharest, people I hang out with, have dinner with, play dates with. A lot of them are startup founders that are based here. And so it's a little bit selfish why I created this. It's one, to meet other people. And then two, is because we plan on traveling while we're here in Europe, right? And so we're planning to live at least like a month every year in a different country. And so later this year, we're going to be in the Netherlands for a few weeks. And so I'm going to interview startup founders from the Netherlands, right? Next year, we may go to Portugal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have a season where I only interview startup founders for Portugal because, as you know, the experience of traveling somewhere is so much better when you have a local showing you around.
Yeah, I love this. So this was my podcast is primarily solo episodes, but every year I pick a handful of people to come on and co-host, have a conversation with me, interview like you, and been doing this for quite a number of years now, since 2017. And this year it was like I was way more intentional about who I was having on the podcast because of who I wanted to give to and who I wanted to build relationship with and why I wanted to build relationship with them. And whether it's me just talking into the mic, there's value. But then there's also value in helping somebody else and giving them a platform for getting their message out. And it's an opportunity to have a cool conversation and connect with somebody. So there's just so many great things when you look at a podcast and how you can maximize it for relationship building, for meeting people, for offering value, for starting conversations.
Yeah, and it opens doors. I mean, that's how I started working at Optimark. This is the first job I've ever had where I did not have to submit a resume or interview with anybody. One of the guests that I had last season was Shaba, who's the founder of Optimark. And we had a really good rapport during the interview. He knew what I was doing at Bonjoro. And, after the podcast recording, or when the podcast recording went live, I sent him a Bonjoro, which is a personalized video. And he was just like so impressed, I think, with how I approached the craft. And I think he knew that, oh, wow, Eric can tell a really good story. And I think I want him at Bonjoro, or at Optimark, to start telling the story of personalization. And so he started approaching me and kind of persuaded me to learn more about, his vision, what the platform does, where he wants to take it for the next, 5 to 10 years. And he believes so strongly in it, and it really inspired me. And so that's how I made the transition over there to Optimark. But I had no idea that was going to happen. It opened doors. I can't say enough things about it.
So let's talk about the personalization, the website personalization, or personalization in your marketing, personalization through email, personalization in all these places, and how that fosters relationships, because I use a tremendous amount of personalization. It's truly, I'm being genuine, because some people use it and they're not genuine.
Yeah.
Right. So what's interesting is, what I find is the women that I work with will see somebody doing something in a scammy, sketchy way. And then they go, ooh, I don't want to be like them, without thinking about, well, it's not the thing they're doing, it's the energy from which they're coming from when they do it. So how can I take what they've done and put my energy, my spin on it? So, and I've absolutely felt that way too, like with things like direct outreach or whatever, I'd be like, but then I found a way that really makes it fun and enjoyable for me. And it was actually Bonjoro that helped, using that tool with Bonjoro, that helped me really get over this and move through it. And now so much of what I do is personalized, to the point that some people don't believe it. And I've had to send, like, in my emails, sometimes I have like a PS, and I'm like, because people, what we do is we have a wait list for one of our programs. They sign up for the program, and I send them a personal email saying, hey, would you like to join us now? Mm-hmm. Right. And I have to write, PS, this is really me. It's coming from my Gmail account. Some people don't believe it, but like, I'm really here to connect and have a conversation.
Yeah.
Even if I have a personalized email that goes out and it's automated, because we have certain parts of our sales funnel, if you will, that have maybe automated emails that go out, but they're highly personalized. It'll say like, PS, this is an automated email, but I actually wrote it and mean everything I say in it. I'm just looking to save myself some time, as should you, right? Like, and just saying you could still be personal and use automation. So enter Eric, Optimark, and personalization and relationship building.
Yeah. So you can get more personalized with a Bonjoro video. I say it's the next best thing to meeting somebody in person, right?
Yes.
Now, the Bonjoro video usually comes into play after somebody maybe subscribes to your list or becomes a customer, right? With Optimark, we're trying to personalize that experience in real time when they're actually on your website. And there's a number of ways that you can do that through, for example, if you're advertising on Google or Facebook, and based on the UTM parameters, then whatever ad that they clicked on, that value proposition that you used in the ad could also align with your headlines or your messaging on your landing pages. And you can do that through the UTM parameters. So that's like one way if you know where somebody's coming from. You can also do it based on the location IP. So if you have, let's say you're getting a lot of traffic from your website from outside the US, if more than 20% of your visitors are from the US, then it does make sense to try to give those people a personalized experience. And you can have just like a little message that just says, welcome from Australia. By the way, we ship to your country, and orders over $50 are free, and all of the amounts that you see do include taxes. A simple message like that.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
It will change your bounce rates for your international visitors.
Can we just pause for a second and say why you're sending that message? Because if I'm shopping on an Australian website, the first question I'm going to have is, do they ship to the States?
Exactly.
So this isn't being pushy or weird or whatever. This is being used to anticipate my experience and go, this person's coming here from the United States. And the first thing they're going to be curious about is, do we ship? What might it cost? And maybe a couple of other particulars like taxes or whatever, or currency or whatever. And so that's going to be the first quote unquote objection or hesitation or concern that I would have ordering from this website. So you're using automation to personalize that experience and say, hey, I see you're from the United States. Here's a set of questions that you're going to have that you're going to need an answer to, and we're going to give you the answer. And that's it. Now I'm good and I can shop.
Exactly. And there's different ways that you can deliver that message. I mean, you can use what they call like a sticky bar, like a little bar, horizontal bar at the very top or bottom of your web page. You could do it through a pop-up. You could even do it like through a teaser slide message. So it's not too obtrusive. But yeah, you need to think about these different experiences for visitors that are concerned about shipping. Do they ship to my location? So that's just like one example that you could deliver. Here's another. I think it's one of the most lowest hanging fruits. If you're selling something and you get a lot of traffic based on seasonality because of seasonal offers, we recently had Valentine's Day. So, there's also Christmas, but there's a lot of shoppers that visit your website. They've never been there before, and they probably have no intention of being a loyal customer. They're just there to buy a gift. And so you could have a little message that appears that says, are you shopping for yourself or somebody else? And if they say somebody else, you can say, great, here's our most giftable items this season if you're interested. And basically take them to the part of the website that they're probably mostly interested in. And you save them time. And you're basically holding their hand and saying, come with me. I think this is what, you're really here for. Right. That's like a little thing that you can do that makes a lot of sense, especially if you get a lot of seasonal traffic.
Yeah. So for people who are running businesses that are virtual, digital, online, on the internet, like internet-based, whatever you want to call it, I always try and say, how would this work if somebody actually walked into a physical location, right? Yeah. You would have a sales assistant who would come up to them and say, hey, thanks for stopping in today. Like maybe it's around Valentine's Day. Are you shopping for yourself or are you looking for a gift? Right. And then that person would say, oh, I'm looking for a gift. And they might say, would you like some help picking out that gift? And the person, if they were me, would probably be like, heck yes, because I don't have the bandwidth, the time, the space, the whatever, like trying to think through what somebody else might like. Right. And you're going to make some recommendations. It's the same thing. It's just happening electronically.
That's exactly. I mean, we're basically trying to bring the offline experience into the online experience. You're not going to walk into a Zara, right, or an H&M, and as soon as you walk in, you got somebody saying, hey, give me your SMS number and, I'll give you this 10% coupon. Doesn't happen.
I love it. That's
so great. It doesn't happen. But you know what? As online marketers, we've been programmed to think we got to get the quick sale. We got to get the email address at all costs. And that cost is at the expense of the customer experience. And sure, you may get the email address, but are people opening your emails? Are they returning to buy something? Are they telling other people about you? Probably not.
Do you only want people buying when they have a coupon?
Exactly.
Do you only want people buying when you're discounting? Haven't we learned like the Groupon thing doesn't work? That then everybody just expects a deal?
Yeah. Oh, Groupon. Yeah. That brings back memories. But, that's what we're trying to say is like, take the long-term approach, think long-term, put yourself in your customer's shoes and think to yourself, what would make this a really good experience where I can provide value, where I can educate the person. And that way, if I deliver, a really good experience and provide value, then when they are purchase ready, they'll buy from me.
Yeah.
That's what we're saying.
Yeah, I really, really love anything having to do with customer experience. Even things like cart abandonment, right?
Yep.
It's funny to watch some people. I'm just raising my hand. I'm saying some people because this used to be me, where I had this thought, like, am I really going to be like following someone around the internet? Because sometimes that can feel like super icky. More so like when you actually like ever say something, start talking to somebody about something and all of a sudden you're seeing ads in your feed, like that creeps me out. But that's not what we're actually saying here. We're saying like the person has come, they were interested, they maybe put something into their cart. And then Eric and I both have kids. So likely a kid has interrupted us, asked us a question. We needed to go and get juice or drive somebody somewhere. And we forgot that it's in the cart, but we really do want the thing.
Yep.
So to have some kind of cart abandonment sequence on there, whether you're e-commerce or a service-based business, is really smart.
Absolutely. And we're saying, in that approach, everybody knows about the exit intent pop-up that says, wait, here's a 10% off discount because, they know that you had something in their shopping cart. We're saying, hey, those historically have worked, but here's some other things that you can do instead. What if it's a low intent visitor who's trying to leave your website? They didn't put anything in the shopping cart. So it doesn't really make sense to try to push some sort of coupon. Instead, you could have a message that appears that just says, are you interested in seeing, January's or February's or March? I don't even know what month I'm in over here. You know how it is with little kids. You don't time to slice. Here's March's, best offers or most top selling products or whatever that's trending, right? And not even offer a coupon, but just by showing that, there's engagement. People are interested in to know what's this, top selling items this season or this month, right? But if you're a high intent visitor, then obviously if they had something in the shopping cart, when they do come back, it makes sense to just show them and say, do you want to continue where you left off? Because here's where you left off.
Yeah. And so if we were to zoom out, what this is really helping people do is build relationships at scale.
Exactly. And that's exactly how Shaba put it to me. He's like, personal video, it's very hard to scale. And it is. I probably sent 30, 40 videos a day when I was at Bonjoro for people that were signing up, right? But if you're a website and you're getting at least 5,000 visitors a month, then it's going to be very hard to scale a personalized relationship. And so that's where a platform like OptiMonk will come in or some other platform.
Yeah. And this is really about buyer psychology. It's about understanding your buyer. It's about understanding their behavior. It's about understanding what they actually want. I never sign up for a 10% coupon. I don't know the statistics on how much that works. I just don't do it. But it's really understanding like what your buyer is interested in and what they want and how you can help them improve that experience, but quickly. Because that's the other thing, because we have a really short period of time to reach out. So we have some automations in our business that if we know you've clicked on something, you've looked at something, it's going to send an automation asking if we can help you pretty quickly.
Yep.
And the reason why is because, it's, again, your kid wants juice, somebody's got to be driven somewhere, or a pop-up comes up on your phone or your text message bings and like you're on to the next thing, even though you wanted more information about what was in front of you.
Yes, absolutely. Now, mostly e-commerce stores use this, but we're starting to see more B2B brands use personalization and use our platform. And one of them has this little message when somebody comes to their website, and they don't get a lot of traffic, but the message says, hi there, we want you to get the most from this experience, the most out of this experience from your visit today. Can you tell us what industry you're in? And it has a few different choices. And then based on whatever the person selects, it serves the appropriate content that they're likely to be interested in. So if they selected, they were in the SaaS space, then it's going to show them, here's the most popular articles around SaaS. Here's some of the solutions, top selling solutions around SaaS. And I actually talked to the owner, and I'm like, why'd you guys pick us? And he said exactly what he said. He's like, people's attention spans are a lot shorter. Time is very valuable. And so we can't expect somebody to come to our website and spend 5 minutes clicking around and try to find what exactly they're interested in. And so we're just trying to help them get there by asking them a few questions. And you can do that. Any brand can do that. If you're a health and wellness website and you specialize in helping people gain muscle, lose weight, sleep better, and if you don't know anything about this person at all, why not ask them? What is your pain point? Are you trying to gain muscle? Depending on their answer, they could be fantastic. Here's our top 5 ways on how to gain muscle. And by the way, here's our top selling products on how to build muscle if you're interested in.
Yeah, help them access the content that you've created. It gives you so much more juice and legs and optimization on your own effort and work to do it that way.
Absolutely. And we're integrated with so many different platforms, ActiveCampaign, Klaviyo. Some of the platforms we can actually tag them based on their answers. And so you can segment them, and then you can segment that data automatically, like Klaviyo, for example. And so now that way, when you start your email marketing campaign with them, you know what segment to put them in. They were interested in gaining muscle. Okay, I've got a funnel or an automation that has, content about gaining muscle or whatever. So that information can feed automatically into whatever platform that you're using, if you're using, email automation that way.
Okay, I'm letting everybody know right now, this is what business development, when people talk about, business development activities, sales activities, Eric and I are having a conversation. I wanted him to come on this podcast because I wanted to meet him in person. I wanted to offer him something. Hey, get your message out into the world. I know Eric and I are going to stay connected because we're just having like a really nice conversation right now. But I'm also going to check out OptiMonk because my brain is exploding with ideas about how this can actually help us. And while we're not in the e-commerce space, we're in a service space. I always look to other industries. I don't look within my own industry as to how I can innovate. I always look external to other industries and how I can innovate. And I love looking at e-commerce around, some of my favorite innovations in my own business have come from the e-commerce space. So if you're listening to this podcast and you go to my website in a couple months, I bet you're going to see us testing OptiMonk. Right. And so this is how building relationships, giving and receiving value lead to sales, lead to collaborations, lead to partnerships, just lead to friendships. Right. I just want to give like a real life example so they can see how this is playing out. What do you think about that, Eric?
No, that is so true. I mean, when you have a conversation with somebody and you go into the conversation with a giving attitude, right? Go with the giving attitude and then also listening, as well, right? Just listen and give, but don't go with the intention of, hey, I'm trying to sell something here or what's in it for me. Because if you go in with that approach, then people are going to just sniff it out and it's not going to lead to any sort of, good relationship with that person. Obviously, I'm not in sales. I'm sure if anybody's in sales that's listening to that, they're probably going to disagree with me here. But I get more people that tell me, wow, this is a really good ABM approach, account-based marketing approach. And I'm not an ABM guy. I'm just basically trying to get to know people, create some partnerships and some relationships. And this is how I am. And I think it begins with, just being authentic and not taking yourself too seriously and letting people know that you're open, you're friendly. And if they want to, travel down that journey with you, you're available. Just see where it goes. You can learn so much with a 15-minute conversation with somebody. This, Tara.
Yeah. So I am in sales, and I will tell you that actually does work because you never want to go in. And I think this is where people get super edgy about even just relationship building. I don't want to build a relationship because, I'm trying to get something from the person. Listen. No, you're going to go in and you're going to give. And you're going to know that through the energy of giving, you're going to receive something somewhere from someone. It's not that, now I expect some kind of tit for tat relationship with Eric. I know that I've been generous. He's come on my podcast. We've had this lovely conversation. I'm genuinely interested in what he's talking about and what his company has to offer. And somewhere in the world, someone is going to reach out to me and offer me an opportunity to go on their podcast. They're going to refer me. They're going to say, hey, listen, I was talking to this person, Tara, and she was super interesting and you might want to connect with her. It just goes around. It's not that tit for tat. That's, I think, the difference between traditional networking and connection, where connection is really like this infinite web that seems to happen when you really look to show up and be of service to somebody else. I know that by being of service in this moment, that it's going to come back to me. That's like my mindset.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Casey and I, when I was at Bonjoro, and we had this one customer, and she was like on our beginner package, but she was just great. She sent a lot of videos, and we really liked her energy. And we reached out to her, and I think we did like a webinar with her. But when we looked into the data, we were just blown away because the number of people she actually referred to Bonjoro was the most number of people out of any of our affiliates. And, even though her customer lifetime value was like very, very small, when you added up all the customers that she drove, she was by far our most important customer, right? And I think that's how you should look at relationships, is that it's like, even though this may not lead to something working out between us, somewhere down the line, somebody may say, hey, do you know anybody who does this? Or do you know anybody? I got reached out today. It was a company, Social Bee, right? And they just said, Eric, I know you know a lot of creators in the space. Do you know anybody who does video? Some of the people that I have on my podcast, startup founders, Eric, do you know any VC funds that actually specialize in food and retail? And most times I do. I'm like, yeah, happily. And then even on LinkedIn, if I see somebody that does a post and ask a question and I know somebody, I will just instantly like tag that person. Happens all the time. So even if you feel like you didn't get anything from that phone call or whatever, but if you just show up and be genuine and be sincere, it's going to be in that person's memory. Like, this is what that person does. So when there's an opportunity or somebody comes around and saying, do you know somebody who provides this service? Right? Actually, I do.
Okay, so I want to wrap us up and roll us out of here, and we're talking about something that's really important that I want to highlight. This is a part of your identity. This is who you are. You are relational. You connect people. You are not in this temporarily that if all of a sudden you're not getting enough in return, you're going to peace out and not be this way anymore.
Probably so.
So this has become through either, through having a need and then creating a habit and having a value around this. This has become just a natural part of who you are. How do you stay consistent? How do you maintain this level of relationship building, of meeting people, of connecting others? How do you have systems? Do you have a process? Is just something that's super innate for you?
Yeah. I mean, with friendships, for example, like my really strong friendships with friends that I made, years ago, I organize what we call a guys trip every year. And, we'll just meet up for like a weekend. And I think I always tell my wife she should do this with her friends too, but it's great because I'm over here in Europe. And they're all spread out over the States. They're in New York. They're in Texas. And so that's like for a core group of friends. For friends, other friends that also my core group, but other friends too, I try to carve out like 30 minutes on a Saturday. And I will literally message them like through WhatsApp or text message. Just, hey, how's it going? How are things over there? And I'll literally copy and paste the same message and send that out to like 10 different people. And I think that probably helps the most because it sparks the conversation. If I haven't seen somebody in a while, then usually that message will lead to let's get together. So that's the other thing that I think is really important is just sending out, a little message that just says, hey, just wanted to check in, see how's it going. Let me know how you're doing, right? But you got to take time to do that. And it doesn't take a long time, just a few minutes. It doesn't even have to be every weekend, but try to do that every other weekend. And because I'm in a new spot, well, I've been here a little over 2 years now, but still because I'm new, I try to host a cocktail event, usually once a quarter. And usually the people that I'm inviting, I've never met in person. And so I'm going to host one, usually about 15 to 20 people go. But I've seen them on LinkedIn. I know that they're in my city. I find what they do interesting. And I literally will either do this at my place, or I'll ask a co-working spot if I could use their conference room. And it's just a 2-hour event. And I send a message that just says, hey, I'm putting together, a cocktail event on this date for 2 hours. There's going to be some wine. There's going to be some marketing and startup folks together. There's going to be some people I think you'd hit it off with. If you're interested, let me know and I'll send you more details, right? I've done a few of these already. I'm doing one at the end of this month, and I'm going to meet at least 15 people that I've never met before, but I'm putting them in an area or situation that's going to be relaxing. It's going to be casual. And there's kind of a system to this where I'm going to have 2 icebreakers. And so the first icebreaker is just kind of very basic. What do you do? Type thing. And then the second one is a little bit deeper. I may ask them something like, what's a book or podcast that you read or listened to lately and you would love to share with others? And then by the end of that event, everybody's going to know everybody else there. And usually a lot of these friendships and connections happen organically at the event. And then I get a good idea of who I want to get to know better. And I can do that pretty easily after they come to the event, because afterwards I can just message that person and say, hey, it was great meeting you. We'd love to catch up with this weekend. But because I do that, I get known as a connector and people start to get familiar with me, and then my network grows. And so I'm going to do this in Cluj, a city I've never been to, in Romania next month. I'm actually going to try to do this in the Netherlands too, with people that I've never met, but have been on my podcast as well. That's another approach that I do.
This is a strategy that works really well. And the way I think about it is I look to see who I know online and how I can take those relationships offline and in person, belly to belly, the whites of our eyes, right? And then like when I meet people locally, how can I bring that relationship online so we can increase the proximity of our connection and the frequency of our connection? And like you, a podcast is a great way to do that. So, like I met somebody that I really got along with just the other day. And I was just like, hey, do you listen to podcasts? And they were like, yeah. I was like, okay, because something we were talking about reminded me of this episode on my podcast. No pressure to listen, but here it is being of value. And listen to how easy Eric made that. He's grouping of people together and he's got 2 icebreakers. He doesn't have a presentation. He doesn't have PowerPoint slides. He's not overproducing this. He's going to go and he's going to ask 2 icebreaker questions, right? Yeah. He's just going to make a reservation and give the details of the event. So I really love how simple, but how impactful that is, because like when we're looking at how can we expend a low amount of energy, but get like a big return or impact, that is certainly falls into one of those categories.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask you, as we wrap up, as we leave here, advice to people who feel like super apprehensive maybe about taking the leadership role in this. Like, what can you share with them, like a pep talk or a tip or something?
Yeah, I think first you got to show, before you can actually go and build these relationships and connections, my first thing that I would focus on is show that you're friendly. And you can do that by just with your profile on your social media, the main one that you use. So if you go to my LinkedIn profile, I actually have on there, my title. I help brands build personalized experiences, European startup podcast host, and I'm a mediocre tennis player, right? And I have a picture of me smiling. And so if you had the choice to pick who you want to connect with or have a conversation with, and you had 2 images, an image of a person who is very serious or one that's smiling, more than likely you're going to pick the one that's smiling. So you have to show that you're likable, and you can do that with your photo, And then you can do that with a description of who you are or your title or whatever. So I would say start with that first. And because a lot of people, before they connect with you, are going to look at your profile. And if you present yourself by showing that you're friendly, then I think that's going to signal to the other person that, okay, this is somebody that I would like to meet.
I love that as somebody who can be way too serious at times. I love that as a tip for sure. And I'm going to leave everybody with, whenever I reach out and whenever I do something personalized or something even that I feel like, ooh, like, is this going to get backlash? This feels uncomfortable to me. Is the other person going to receive this well? I always receive a thank you.
Everybody likes to receive either an invite to a party or a nice message or a compliment.
Yeah,
right?
I always receive, or like even just trying to be helpful. Like, hey, I noticed you were interested in this thing. Can I answer any questions you might have about it?
Yes. Who's going to get upset about that?
People are like, well, some people do, but like most of the time, like 99.999% of the time, I actually do receive a response and it's thank you.
Yeah, of course. Being helpful, providing value. You can't go wrong with that.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on, Eric, and having this conversation. Where can folks find you if they want to just, find more about you, see your style? I love your posts on LinkedIn. I really appreciate how you show up there. And I really just genuinely enjoy, reading what you write and connecting with you.
Yeah, LinkedIn would be the best way. Eric Melchor on LinkedIn. If you're interested in personalization, I give a personalization workshop. It's free every couple of weeks. And we show you how you can basically find the opportunities for personalization in your business. And so you can go to optimonk.com/bootcamp.
That's awesome. I'm definitely checking out OptiMonk. It sounds like it's right up my alley. Thank you so much for coming on today, Eric. It was a joy to talk to you. Yeah.
It's a pleasure.
If you found this podcast valuable, help us develop more bold leaders in the world by sharing this episode with your friends, colleagues, and other bold leaders. Also, if you haven't done so already, please leave a review. I consider reviews like podcast currency, and it's the one thing you can do to help us out here at the Bold Leadership Revolution HQ. We would be so grateful for it. Special thanks goes to Stacey Harris from Uncommonly More, who is the producer and editor of this podcast. Go check them out for all your digital marketing and content creation needs. Be sure to tune into the next episode to help you embrace your ambition and leave the grind behind.